The Velary fleet drifted silently through the dark emptiness of space. Each ship was battered, their hulls scratched and dented from years of constant travel and the many dangers they had faced. The fleet had no home now. Their planet had been destroyed long ago, crushed under the weight of the Alliance's so-called peacekeeping forces. They had nowhere to go, no world to call their own, and no one willing to help them. Koresh, the leader of the Velary, stood on the bridge of the largest ship, looking at the stars. His skin was pale under the dim lights, and his eyes carried the weight of many years and many losses. He remembered the day their homeworld had fallen. He remembered the screams and the fires and the silence afterward. Most of his people had survived by sheer luck and quick thinking, but survival had come at a high price. Families were broken, ships were lost, and many had died along the way. The Velary had sought help from the Galactic Alliance. They had sent pleas to dozens of planets, to neutral stations, and even to independent worlds. Each time the answer had been the same: no. Some refused politely, saying they could not afford the burden. Some were harsher, turning them away with weapons raised. The Alliance told them they were unstable, that their culture was incompatible, that they were a threat. No one wanted to risk helping them. Koresh's stomach knotted as he watched the children move through the corridors of the fleet. These children had known nothing but metal walls, cramped quarters, and the hum of engines. They had never seen green trees or blue skies. They were growing up in the cold silence of space, learning to survive, but never to live. Koresh felt a sharp pang of guilt and helplessness. He had led them through the worst, but there was still no end in sight. The fleet's engineer, Reln, came to Koresh quietly. Reln was old and frail, his body bent from years of work on failing engines and broken systems, but his mind was sharp. "Captain," he said softly, "I found something. Hidden coordinates. A human outpost. Far from the Alliance, on the edge of known space. Aurora Station." Koresh frowned. Humans. He had heard the Alliance talk of humans many times. They were called unpredictable, dangerous, and savage. The Alliance often warned others to avoid humans at all costs. Yet here was a chance, a glimmer of hope, faint and risky though it was. Koresh called the surviving captains of the Velary fleet together. Their meeting room was small and crowded, but the weight of their decision made it feel even tighter. Voices rose in debate. Some said it was too dangerous to approach humans. What if the rumors were true? What if humans were cruel or violent? Others reminded them that they had no other options. The Alliance had refused them at every turn. Their fleet was failing, supplies were low, time was running out. Finally, Koresh spoke. His voice was steady, carrying the authority that came from years of leadership. "We have tried every door the galaxy would open to us," he said. "We have begged, pleaded, and survived, but we are still without a home. We cannot wait for mercy from those who have shown us none. We will go to the humans. We will risk what we must. If we do not, my people will die in the dark." The fleet prepared for the jump to human space. The engines roared and sparks flew as they tested every system, every life support module. Children clung to their parents, sensing the tension in the air. Adults moved quickly, tending to the weakest, making sure everyone had enough food and water for the journey. There was fear, yes, but also a small flame of hope that had not burned in many years. Days later, the fleet arrived at the coordinates. Aurora Station came into view, orbiting a gas giant with clouds that swirled in soft blues and grays. It was not large, but it was alive with movement, ships coming and going, lights blinking, and people walking along exposed walkways. Koresh felt a strange emotion he had not felt in years: hope. On the station, humans noticed the approaching fleet. Alex Carter, the duty officer, was the first to see them on the sensors. The ships were damaged, their formation ragged. A wideband distress signal reached the station, filled with desperation. The words were broken, alien in form, but the meaning was clear. "Help us. We have nowhere else to go." Alex gathered his team quickly. Lena Scott, the medical specialist, and Ryan Cole, the logistics officer, joined him in the command room. Ryan frowned at the readings. "These ships are barely holding together," he said. "We don't have the supplies to take in even one of them, let alone a whole fleet." Lena shook her head. "We can't just turn them away," she said firmly. "Look at them. They are children, families. If we close the door, we are no better than the Alliance. We know what suffering looks like, and we can help. We have to try." Alex listened, weighing the risk. The Alliance had made it clear that any contact with politically sensitive species was dangerous. But these beings were alive, scared, and in need. He nodded slowly. "We'll let them dock," he decided. "Under strict supervision, no exceptions, but we cannot ignore them. We will help them survive." The Valari ships began to approach the station. They moved slowly, cautiously, wary of humans and their potential hostility. Koresh led a small delegation aboard, his people trembling, unsure of what they would find. They expected weapons, harsh words, or cruelty. Instead, they were met with careful eyes and steady hands. Alex greeted Koresh with a firm but respectful voice. "We cannot promise what we cannot give," he said. "But we can promise that no one here will be left to die in the dark." Koresh felt a strange warmth. No one had ever said such words to him without expectation of gain. He nodded slowly, trying to mask his disbelief. Lena and her medical team moved swiftly, transforming a hangar into a temporary ward. She began triaging the Valari, treating sickness and injury, calming frightened children. At first, the children were scared of her, their eyes wide and wary. But she smiled, told them simple stories, and showed them holographic images from Earth. Laughter began to echo lightly through the corridors, a sound almost forgotten on the Valari fleet. Ryan muttered about supply shortages as he rerouted emergency rations, but even he could not hide a small sense of pride. He watched the Valari receive food and clean water, something they had not had in years. It was a small miracle, yet it felt monumental. Koresh walked through the hangar, watching the children. He could not remember the last time he saw them truly at ease. The humans had offered them something that no one else had. A chance to exist without fear. He felt a stirring of hope that had almost died in him. As night fell on the station, the gas giant below glowed softly in the viewport. Stars shimmered beyond it, endless and bright. Koresh looked at his people and then at the humans who had chosen to help them. Perhaps, he thought, the galaxy had rejected them. But here, among these strangers from a distant world, they might finally find a beginning. The Valari would survive. They would learn to live again. And in the quiet hum of Aurora Station, for the first time in many years, Koresh allowed himself to hope that maybe the humans were more than the Alliance had warned them to fear. Maybe, just maybe, they had found allies in a universe that had turned its back on them. The Valari refugees moved slowly through the hangar, guided by human volunteers. The air was filled with a strange mix of smells, metal, fuel, and the sweet scent of prepared food. Children clutched the hands of their parents, unsure of what would happen next. Some looked at the humans with suspicion, while others stared with wide-eyed curiosity. Alex Carter walked alongside Koresh, speaking quietly. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We have to make sure they survive their first days here." Koresh nodded, his hands resting lightly on the railing. "We are grateful," he said, "but I worry for my people. They have not seen a world like this in many cycles. Everything is strange and new." Lena Scott moved among the Valari, tending to children who had fevers and adults who had injuries from old battles. She smiled as she handed a small cup of water to a young Valari girl. "Drink slowly," she said. The girl hesitated, then took a careful sip. Lena patted her shoulder gently. "It's safe here. We will keep you safe." Ryan Cole was busy checking supply levels, calculating what they could give without running out. He grumbled quietly to himself, but did not stop. Each ration pack he handed to the Valari was a small victory. Slowly, the hangar began to feel less like a temporary holding area and more like a place where life could continue. As the day wore on, the Valari began to open up. They told stories of their destroyed world, of forests made of crystal, skies filled with strange lights, and cities that floated on rivers of light. Humans listened with fascination. Alex made notes, thinking about how this information might help them integrate the Valari into human space. The first night on Aurora Station was quiet but tense. Many Valari slept in small groups, keeping watch over each other. Koresh sat with his council, speaking in hushed tones. "We have never experienced such kindness from the galaxy," he said. "We were ready for weapons and threats, yet they offer us life. We must be careful, though. The Alliance will not forget us easily." Meanwhile, back on the station, humans debated what to do next. Alex gathered Lena, Ryan, and a few other officers in the command room. "We can't keep them hidden forever," Alex said. "The Alliance sensors will detect them soon. We need a plan if they come." Ryan shook his head. "We don't have the resources for a fight. They could destroy the station in minutes. We're barely holding together as it is." Lena looked at him, her eyes steady. "It is not just about fighting. It is about what we believe. We cannot send them back to die. That is not who we are. We have to stand for something, even if it is risky." Alex nodded slowly. He understood the weight of their decision. The humans of Aurora Station were not rich or powerful, but they had courage. They had seen hardship and had learned to survive against odds greater than themselves. And now they would test that courage for the sake of others. The next day, a small delegation of Valari visited the station's medical and logistics areas. They were cautious but polite, curious about the humans who had chosen to help them. Koresh walked with them, explaining in his broken common language. He introduced them to Lena, who smiled and offered them tea, a gesture that surprised the Valari. The children, fascinated by the human technology, pressed buttons on panels, causing lights to flash and sounds to play. Lena laughed and showed them how to use small holographic toys. Their laughter echoed through the corridors, and for the first time in many years, the Valari children felt joy instead of fear. Over the next few days, humans and Valari worked together to repair the fleet's smaller ships. Valari engineers shared their knowledge of advanced systems, while human mechanics applied practical solutions. The collaboration created a bond between the two species. Trust began to form, slowly but steadily. Koresh observed this collaboration with growing respect. Humans were not the unpredictable monsters the Alliance had warned about. They were strong, resourceful, and compassionate. He began to understand that perhaps humans were capable of something rare in the galaxy: empathy and courage together. However, not all was calm. Alliance sensors detected the Valari fleet and sent a warning message. The Alliance had noticed that the refugees had docked at Aurora Station. A transmission reached Alex, stern and threatening. The Alliance commander demanded that the Valari be handed over immediately or face consequences. Alex studied the message carefully. He called Lena and Ryan into the command room. "They want us to give up the Valari," he said. "They call it custody. But we both know what that really means." Ryan slammed a fist on the table. "We can't fight them. They will destroy us." Lena shook her head. "Then we must fight in other ways. Not with weapons, but with truth. We show them the Valari are alive, that they are not a threat, that they need help." Koresh, observing the human debate, felt a mix of fear and hope. No one had ever stood up for his people before. The Alliance had always acted as if the Valari were unworthy of life. Yet these humans were willing to risk everything for them. Alex made a decision. "We will not hand them over," he said firmly. "We will find a solution that keeps them safe and does not provoke unnecessary conflict. But we will not abandon them." Preparations began quietly. The station's defense systems were tested. Emergency protocols were reviewed. The human crew and the Valari engineers worked side by side, creating a sense of unity and purpose. Each small repair, each ration packed, each corridor cleaned was an act of defiance and hope. Koresh gathered his people in a quiet meeting. "Humans have given us something precious," he said. "They risk themselves for our survival. We must honor this. We must be patient, work with them, and show that we are worthy of their trust." As the Valari settled into life on the station, they began to learn human customs. Children played simple games, mimicking humans and laughing at their mistakes. Adults exchanged knowledge about engineering, medicine, and survival strategies. Bonds grew stronger, and the fear of being alone in the universe began to fade. Meanwhile, messages from distant human command arrived, cautious and neutral. They instructed Aurora Station to avoid direct confrontation if possible, but allowed the station to continue aiding the Valari. Alex and his team understood the delicate balance. They could not be reckless, but they could also not betray the trust of those in their care. Days passed, and the Alliance cruiser drew nearer. Its presence was intimidating, its weapons silent but visible. The human crew prepared for a tense standoff, not knowing what the aliens would do. Yet there was no panic, only quiet determination. They had made their choice, and they would stand by it. Lena continued to care for the Valari, documenting illnesses and injuries, sharing knowledge that could save lives. Ryan kept the supply chains running, grumbling but effective. Alex coordinated communications and defenses, balancing caution with courage. Koresh walked through the station, observing the humans. He realized that they were not just helping because it was convenient or politically safe. They were helping because they believed it was right. And in a galaxy that had turned away from them at every turn, this simple act of humanity was the most powerful thing the Valari had ever experienced. As night fell over the gas giant below, the station glowed softly. Valari children slept with dreams of a future that seemed possible for the first time in years. Adults whispered plans and hopes for what they might build together with the humans. Koresh looked at the stars, feeling something he had thought lost forever. Hope. The Alliance may have rejected them. The galaxy may have turned its back. But here, in the quiet corridors of Aurora Station, the Valari had found a beginning. Humanity had opened its arms, and for the first time, the Valari dared to believe that survival could lead to life, and that life could lead to a future worth fighting for. Several days passed quietly on Aurora Station. The Valari refugees were settling in, slowly but surely. Children played under the watchful eyes of their parents, learning human games and exploring parts of the station they had never seen before. Adults worked alongside humans to repair smaller ships, improve life support systems, and prepare for the journey that would eventually take them to a new world. Koresh watched the progress with cautious hope. He could not let himself feel completely safe yet. The Alliance had noticed them, and he knew that their patience would not last forever. But for now, there was a sense of calm. The Valari were alive, fed, and beginning to regain the strength they had lost during years of exile. Back in the command room, Alex Carter and his team were busy monitoring incoming transmissions. One message in particular made Alex frown. It was from the Alliance, stern and commanding. The fleet had detected the Valari presence at Aurora Station and demanded their immediate surrender. Failure to comply would result in sanctions and possible military action. Alex called Lena Scott and Ryan Cole to the briefing room. He let the message play again on the holo screen, its words cold and threatening. Ryan slammed his fist lightly on the table. "We can't fight them. They could destroy this station in minutes." Lena shook her head firmly. "We may not fight them with weapons, but we can fight in another way. We can show the truth. We can show the galaxy that the Valari are not a threat, that they deserve help." Koresh listened quietly to the human debate. He had never experienced such courage from another species. The Alliance had always used fear to control, to decide who lived and who died. These humans were risking themselves for his people, not because of fear or gain, but because they believed it was the right thing to do. Alex made a decision. "We will not hand them over," he said firmly. "We will protect them, but we will do it carefully. We need a plan to ensure their safety and to avoid unnecessary conflict." Preparations began immediately. The station's defense systems were tested and upgraded where possible. Evacuation protocols were reviewed. The human crew worked side by side with Valari engineers, their collaboration strengthening trust and creating a sense of purpose. Every repaired panel, every ration packed, every corridor cleaned was an act of determination, proof that they would stand together. Koresh gathered his people for a quiet council. "Humans have given us a gift we never expected," he said. "They risk themselves for our survival. We must honor this. We must work with them and show that we are worthy of their trust." The Valari began to learn human customs. Small things like how to prepare food, how to use communication devices, and how to navigate the station's complex layout. Children laughed and played, while adults exchanged knowledge about engineering and medicine. Bonds grew stronger, and the fear of being alone in the universe began to fade. One morning, a delegation of Valari engineers met with Ryan Cole to discuss repairs on the smaller ships in the fleet. Ryan was impressed by their technical skill, though he did not let them see it. "We will need to check every system twice," he said. "Human safety standards are high." Koresh and Alex walked along the docking bays, watching the work. "They are more capable than I imagined," Koresh said softly. "Perhaps humans are not as unpredictable as the Alliance says." Alex smiled faintly. "We learn quickly when survival depends on it. And sometimes we learn better when we have a reason to help others." As the days went by, the Alliance cruiser drew closer. Its presence was silent but imposing. Humans and Valari alike could see its hull gleaming in the distance, weapons visible even from far away. The tension on the station grew. But panic did not take hold. Instead, there was quiet determination. They had made a choice, and they would stand by it. Lena continued her work in the medical bay, documenting illnesses and injuries, sharing knowledge to prevent further suffering. She studied Valari biology closely, noting both similarities and differences with humans. Koresh observed her dedication and realized that the humans' commitment was real, not superficial. Meanwhile, Alex coordinated communications and defenses, preparing for any action the Alliance might take. Every decision was careful, measured, and thoughtful. He did not underestimate the Alliance, but he also knew that retreat was not an option. The Valari could not survive another rejection. Koresh gathered his people for another council meeting. "We have seen the courage of humans," he said. "They risk themselves for us. We must be patient and show them that their trust is not misplaced. Together, we can survive and build a future." The Valari began to contribute more actively to life on the station. Engineers repaired critical systems, medical knowledge was shared, and cultural exchanges began. Human children taught Valari children simple games, and in return, Valari shared stories of their homeworld, of crystal forests and skies filled with colors that no human had ever seen. The Alliance sent another message, more urgent this time. They demanded that the Valari be handed over immediately. Alex and his team reviewed the message carefully. They knew that the situation could escalate quickly, but they also knew that the Valari's safety depended on them. Alex made another decision. "We will not give them up," he said firmly. "We will protect them, and we will find a way to give them a future." Preparations for potential conflict continued quietly. The station's defenses were tested, communication protocols strengthened, and evacuation plans reviewed. But the humans did not act with fear. Instead, they acted with determination, showing the Valari that they had found allies who would not abandon them. Koresh watched the children playing in the hallways, the adults working tirelessly, and he felt something he had thought lost forever: hope. The Alliance may have rejected them, the galaxy may have turned its back, but here, among these humans, the Valari had found a beginning. They had found a chance to survive and to live again. As the station settled into night, lights glowing softly against the gas giant below, Koresh allowed himself a rare moment of peace. The humans had opened their arms to the Valari, offering protection, knowledge, and compassion. And in this small act, the Valari saw a future that had once seemed impossible. They were no longer alone in the galaxy, and for the first time in many cycles, they dared to dream of a life beyond survival.